Remember there was an episode of the Golden Girls that Blanche's daughter went through IUI. I wanted my dad to be in my kids' lives. I don't think that you're ever prepared to see a negative pregnancy test. Not this guy. I was not in love with my donor. This is something that I will never forget. And I just wanted to be happy. I had spent $20,000. It can consist of skin, hair, and teeth. What? I barely get any views. And I will fight and I will do whatever it takes. That I did everything possible. Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ricky. If you're not new here, my name is still Ricky. Obviously you can tell by the title of this video what we're going to be talking about today. I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. From a very, very young age, I knew that I wanted to be a mom. In my head, as like a young teenager, I thought, well, I'd like to be engaged by 24, married at 25, and then immediately start having kids. I wanted to have a big family. I wanted at least 4 or 5 kids, at least. When I was younger, like 16, one of my friends who was younger than me got pregnant and got married before having the baby. And though that wasn't something that I wanted, I couldn't help but feel like, oh, even though I knew in that time, like that was not what I knew that I should wait. It'd be best, obviously it would be best to wait, but I'm just saying, so that you can kind of understand how bad and how long I've wanted to be a mom. So as I got older and my friends started getting married, I found myself being kind of upset, and not because I wanted to get married, not because I was jealous of their wedding, but because I knew that more than likely within the next year or couple years, they would start to announce that they were pregnant, and that is how it went. Once I realized that I wasn't upset because I hadn't found love yet, and I was upset because at that point in my life I was nowhere near getting pregnant. Once that clicked, I realized, well, I don't need a man to do this. I can do this on my own. And I don't really remember where I even got the idea of being a single mom by choice. Remember there was an episode of the Golden Girls that Blanche's daughter went through IUI, but I don't, other than that, I don't really remember, because I don't think at the time there were a lot of like influencers that did what I am trying to do. Always just kind of like in the back of my mind. And when I was 23, it was 2 days after I turned 23, so it was Halloween. I told my mom that if I wasn't married by 30, then I was going to get artificially inseminated, and that was my plan. From the beginning, she was very supportive of me. But again, I was 23 and I felt that that was a big decision. Like, it's one thing to be married and have kids at 23, which to me, now at 30 years old, I feel that that is like a baby. And I understand some people do get married and they end up being together for forever, but that is very young. But to make that big of a decision to start a family on my own at that age, not making enough money to support a child, it just wasn't, I knew it wasn't smart, and I knew that I had to grow up. If I would have tried then and it would have worked, if it would have worked, then I wouldn't have been the mom that I could be if it were to happen today, like as good of a mom, if that makes sense. So I spent the next couple of years researching, like really researching and making sure that this was right for me. And I know in my heart that it is. Along the way, more and more women shared their stories, and I'm so grateful for them because I found out a lot through different people on the internet. One thing that was always really scary for me, not so much like what I would have to go through, but the financial aspect. And really, if you look at it, when I was 23 years old, IVF was like $15,000. And now it's double that, at least where my clinic is. As far as my clinic, it's 30,000, and I'll get into why it's 30,000 later on in the video. Anyway, so at 26, I started going to different doctors and kind of just like, this is what I'm thinking about. I got on antidepressants. I took better care of my body because I wanted to be in the best shape possible for my child. So while this is going on, COVID is also in full force. I think COVID started when I was 24, and so it was 2021, probably 2022 is when I really got into it. So when I was 26, I'm going to all of these doctors. I'm getting in what I think is better health than I was mentally, physically, all of that. And then summer 2022, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And I'm not going to say that that's the reason why I went for it at that time, because it's not, because I was already planning on doing it. But I wanted my dad to be in my kids' lives. I wanted them to know him because I lost my grandpa in 2021, but I had the best grandpa. He was the best, and you can never convince me that I didn't have the best grandpa, because I did. Anyway, so at the time, I was terrified. Every morning you wake up and it's like, oh, my dad has cancer. Oh, you have to, it's a constant 24/7 worry. But as worried as I was, I never once thought, my dad is going to die from this. And so I turned 27. January 2023, I start treatment. And first IUI didn't work. And though I knew you're going to have to do this a couple times, going into it, I knew that. I prepared myself for that. But guess what? I did not prepare myself. I don't think that you're ever prepared to see a negative pregnancy test when you want something, when you want this so badly. So then immediately I contact the doctor and I'm like, okay, let's do it again. Let me go back. I'm sorry. I don't have anything written down, so I might have to go back a couple times. But anyway, I had 3 vials of sperm. And I think what it was is that I bought one. At that time, it was less than $1,000, probably like $800 to $900. By the time I bought the second one, like maybe a couple months later, it was already over $1,000. The third one was $1,895. So within months, it was just like going up, like skyrocketing in price. My donor that I chose, I loved baby pictures, adult pictures. I really, really loved this guy. Not this guy. I was not in love with my donor. Let me rephrase that. I was in love with what could have been. I thought that we could have made really cute kids, to be quite honest. But anyway, second IUI, they upped the dose of letrozole. I have higher hopes for this one, but I'm still nervous. During the waiting, the 2-week wait is just awful, because every little thing that you feel you're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Spoiler, I was not pregnant. But anyway, during all of this, the 2-week wait and the treatment, everything, I'm also helping take care of my dad, who is still sick. He's still going to chemo, and it was a lot. Looking back now, I was not healthy. Since then, I've gained a little bit less than 15 pounds. I feel that I'm much healthier now. Those pictures that I see, I'm like, it's a little scary. So then I take a month off and I switch locations. So I am gonna discuss what clinics I went to, because I would love for you to really research, because I understand that this company can work for some people, but I've heard very bad things since I've had my horrible experiences. So Aspire HFI, do your research, people. I will never go back to Aspire HFI. Let me talk about why I did not care for them. So I never really saw my doctor ever. Like, she probably did one ultrasound, one consultation. That was it. I had to drive an hour away for the actual insemination because they didn't do it at that office that was 20 minutes away from my house. When I went to have the IUI done, it was a different doctor. I actually really liked him. There's one time I really liked the doctor. The other time he hurt me so bad and just very rough, and it was quite painful. It wasn't anything I couldn't take, but it was just like, after having somebody so gentle, and then I was like, that's not necessary. Anyway, after the 2 failed IUIs, I went to his office, and I remember him talking about like, oh, you know, you could do an HSG test, but I don't recommend it. Everything was, you could do this, but I don't recommend it. Okay, I'm 27 years old at the time, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not in the medical field at all. And so when a specialist says, I don't recommend you doing this, I'm not going to question it. And I should have. And that's my fault too, because I didn't question things. But anyway, I remember my first doctor telling me that an HSG test was like pretty much blowing your nose before trying to get pregnant. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it does that with the tubes and everything, whatever. But she said, and I quote, I don't recommend that because you're young and you're healthy. What I've come to learn is that it doesn't matter if you're young. It doesn't matter if you may look healthy. You don't know. You don't know. And so if she would have explained what exactly that test was, then maybe I would have done it. If he would have explained it, then maybe I would have done it, especially after 2 failed IUIs. But he said I don't recommend doing it, and I wanted to get pregnant today. Like, I was so impatient, and if I could go back now, I would have just gotten it, and then maybe that would have done something. I don't know. I don't know. I'll never know if, you know. So, 3rd IUI fails, and it wasn't good. I remember being so upset that I just kind of closed off from my family. And I remember, this is something that I will never forget, and something that I regret so much. My dad never understood my mental health, like my mental health issues, because my dad was completely opposite. He was outgoing. He didn't have worries the way that I do. And he said something, and I lashed out at him. And I said, I'm yelling at him, but I'm yelling at myself. Because I said, I'm angry with my body. I'm angry at myself for not being able to get pregnant. And after that happened, he wasn't angry at me. Everything went back to normal, but I have that memory in my head of yelling at my dad, and I hate it, and I'll never forgive myself for that moment. Anyway, a month after my last failed IUI, my dad went into the hospital, so that was like June. My dad passed away in July 5th, 2023. And my whole world was a mess. I'm depressed because it's like negative, negative, negative. Your dad is really sick. Your dad's dead. And I just thought, like, why is this happening? Why I felt like I wasn't allowed to be happy. And I just wanted to be happy. What I wanted in life was nothing that was like, I wasn't asking to be a millionaire. I wasn't asking for a 3-story house. I wasn't asking for expensive cars. I was asking for a baby. I wanted my dad. I wanted my dad to be okay. And I was just losing everything. And then on top of all of that, I broke. I'm so broke because every time I visited the doctor, and you visit the doctor so much during treatment, like every day, sometimes multiple times a day, and it's $100 every time you visit. It was like $2,000 each IUI, not including medication. Nothing was covered. 0% was covered. I spent so much on blood work. Everything was so expensive. So from this point, with the vials and the shipping, because the shipping was $400 every time I wanted to ship sperm here, it was $400. From that point to where I was after the 3rd failed attempt, I had spent $20,000. I could have just done IVF at that point, but I just never thought that that was something that I was going to have to do. I thought that it would be not easy, but a hell of a lot easier than it's been. So my life at that point was screwed. Like, I was broke, I was depressed, I was angry. I still am angry that it has to be so hard. I don't understand. So people, going back to my friend when I was a teenager, why was that so easy? And I'm not saying that it was easy, like her life was easy afterwards. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, like, I'm not gonna get into it. But there's people that don't want to have kids. There's people that shouldn't have kids, that abuse them, that they don't want them, and so they just treat them badly. But they get pregnant so easily. That's not fair. So I took a year off because I just mentally was not okay. I had to figure out what my new normal was. I didn't know what to do. And so I spent that first year just I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. If you've ever lost a parent, then I don't need to explain it to you. And I don't know. If If you've never gone through that type of grief, then I pray you never have to, but also I can't explain it. So then fast forward to 2024. I go to a new doctor, a completely different, oh, I didn't even tell you, I missed a really big thing. My last IUI, usually what they do is that they call you in and they say, can you look at this, make sure that this is you, this is him, this is what we're doing, and this is the number of the count, like the total, like active sperm, I guess. They hand it to you, they tell you the number, and you can read it. That happened the first 2 times. The last time, they didn't tell me and they didn't hand me a paper. And again, that's my fault. But if you've ever been through fertility treatment, you also know that there's a lot going on and you're nervous because this is big, you know? And it wasn't until the end, once I was already inseminated, they just like, it was folded up and they handed it to me. And so I opened it and I'm looking and I'm like instantly defeated, because usually they don't inseminate with anything under 10 million. This was 6 million, which is usually the protocol is they don't inseminate under 10 million. Protocol also means that they have to tell you the count before inseminating. And at that point I would have said, don't do it. Let me contact the cryobank and tell them that the count was low. They didn't do that. So immediately, day 1, I'm thinking this is not going to work. And I even contacted the nurse and I had to go to the doctor's office and I told her like everything that I was feeling. And she was like, no, don't worry about it. Don't do that. You know, gave me a bunch of BS excuses. And of course it didn't work. So that last one, I like to think that it's not my fault, but keep talking and you'll see why it's probably still my fault. There's something that I forgot to add, and it's a pretty big part of the story. After everything that went on during my time at Aspire, I tried to contact one of the higher ups, and the only person that they would put me in contact with was a person named Vicky Sandel. And I think that's her last name. But anyway, I spoke with her and I said, this is how I felt and whatever, this is my experience. And she pretty much just made me seem like I was making everything up, like I was stupid. And it was insane, very unprofessional, very rude. And reading the reviews, on the clinic later on after being there and reading the reviews on this person, everyone has pretty much the same experience. I was also told that, because I said, oh yeah, they kept telling me about the HSG test, like you're very young, you're this, I don't see any problems, whatever. And she said, well, yeah, you are on the younger side. Most of our patients that come in are older and they need help getting pregnant. And I'm like, first of all, that's awful to say to someone. If I didn't have issues, I was going in because I am one person and one single woman cannot make a baby. Newsflash. But also there are couples that are my age or younger that are going in because they have fertility issues. And one thing that you should not say is that you're one of the youngest ones, because pretty much saying like most people my age can just get pregnant on their own. And maybe a normal healthy person won't take it that way, but I do. I dissect everything. And she's telling me that like older people go in because they can't get pregnant naturally, and you're here because you're a loser. Fine, not in those words, but she was rude, unprofessional, 0 out of 5 stars. So I'm at the new fertility clinic with a doctor that I love. I don't feel like just a number there. I feel like it's just a completely different experience. One thing that is so little, and maybe to people with kids this may seem offensive, but to somebody that has been struggling to have a baby, it means a lot. The waiting room, like when you go, you're not allowed to bring your other kids that you have already, because it could be hard for the ones that are there that have been trying forever to get pregnant. And that was the thing, that there was always so many people there at Aspire with kids. Like, so many kids were in the lobby, the waiting area. There were so many, and it is very triggering. And I know that that sounds so selfish. I understand that, but you know what? I am selfish, and I don't want to be sitting there going through all of this, and there's kids and there's babies crying, and then there's moms talking to their kids. I know that that sounds awful of me. I understand that. I am fully 100% aware of that. Unless you've been put in my situation, you can't understand. So, from the way I look, what I weigh, my age, everything on paper looks good. But I had an ultrasound done, which was the most detailed ultrasound I've ever had. I've gotten so many ultrasounds done because of this whole thing. This was like a 20-minute ultrasound, and I mean, super just like looking at every nook and cranny of my uterus. The way that the tech was looking, I knew something was not right, and I start panicking. Then I went into like the consultation room, and I'm sitting there waiting, and it's awful because I know, and I have this gut feeling like something's wrong. And he comes in and he looks at everything, and he says, I have 2 cysts on my left ovary. One of them looks like I think it's dermoid, I don't know, which is really gross. This one's harmless, I'm pretty sure. It's just something that I think some people are born with, or just, I don't know what happens. But anyway, it's like it can consist of skin, hair, and teeth. What? I mean, it's disgusting. The other one is an endometrioma, or looks to be an endometrioma. Both very small, but the endometrioma is what is causing the damage, or what could cause even more damage. And that one's the one that I just want to say, fuck you. Once he spoke to me about my periods and my pain and all of that, you have to have surgery to be diagnosed with endometriosis, but given the information that I did provide, he just feels very strongly that I do have endometriosis. And I thought, so I was 27, no, how old was I? 28. I was 28, 29, I don't know. How old was I? I think I was 29. I started my period when I was 13. And so that long had gone by, and I didn't realize that what I was going through every month wasn't normal. To me, I have a very high pain tolerance just in general, but also I don't want people to think like I'm being a baby about it. I never wanted somebody to say, well, you can't handle a period, then how are you going to handle having a baby? Nobody said that to me, but I never wanted to give them the opportunity to do that, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but that's just how I felt. Was I in pain every single month? Yes, I was, but I just thought, this is fine. This is what I have to go through. And I mean, there's like 1 good week that I am not in pain. 2 weeks where 1 week I'm in horrible pain, another week I'm in pain, another week I feel fine, and another week I'm like, oh, I feel pain. If you know, you know. And so also, if you look it up, endometriomas don't happen until you're like stage 3-4 endometriosis, which he didn't say. That's me Googling, and I could be completely wrong, but anyway. The other thing is that I did do the HSG test because he explained it to me, and he felt very strongly about it. He said, I really do think that you should get this done. And so I did. Let me just say that some people say that is the worst pain. Like they've had kids, but they say that an HSG test is the worst pain that they've ever gone through. I was a little bit nervous, but I was like, this has got to get done. It was not painful for me at all. The only thing is that, like, TMI, but this whole video is TMI. My cervix, instead of my cervix being here and just easy access, my cervix, mine was towards my right knee. So they then had to go in and grab it and turn it that way. And that part was uncomfortable and it was painful, but I kind of have this thing where when I'm in pain, I laugh. And so me and the nurses and the doctor were having a fun old time in there. But anyway, so that came back and it looked like something in my uterus, but it was like you couldn't tell. It looked like a fold. So it could have been a fold, but it also could have been polyps. And so he suggested that, well, there was two options. So one of them was an ultrasound with saline. It diagnoses the problem, but it doesn't fix it. My second option was surgery. If there's a problem, they fix it, and that's it. So he strongly suggested the surgery. And so I said, let's do it. So in February 2025, I had my very first surgery ever. The thing is that I'm terrified throughout this entire process, but what's scarier to me is the alternative. Not doing this and not going forward and not having a baby. That is more scary than me going through testing and going through pain and all of that. Like, that's not gonna last forever, but me not having a baby that pain will last forever. So I have the surgery. It was a simple procedure. But when he spoke to my mom, he showed her the pictures of my uterus and it was covered in polyps and there was a lot of scar tissue. And so it's just, there's a lot of like, I should have done this, I should have done that. And he's told me, like, don't think about what you could have done. That's in the past. Let's focus on what we can do. But that's also easier said than done. It's easier said when I didn't already spend $20,000, but it is what it is, I guess. The thing about that is that if that's something that has been in my uterus, then it's something that would have definitely hurt my chances at having a baby through IUI. It's something that could have been spotted way before. And I remember them telling me at Aspire, they would say like, oh, there's something here, but that looks like it's left over from the last time you ovulated. I was told that like maybe 3 times. And when I discussed it with my current doctor, he said, no, it's not even in the right place. So, you know, it doesn't make sense why they would say this. And anyway, given everything that is going on with the 2 cysts that I have and then everything else, if I were to be in a relationship with a man, my chances of getting pregnant would be about 1 to 2%. If I go through another IUI, it's about 11%. Already for a normal healthy couple, it's 20%. So it's not great, but like even average isn't great. But it's still not something that I'm willing to put myself through again, because if I'm gonna do this again, I'm going to put all of my eggs in one basket, literally. If I go through IVF, I have about an 80% chance of that working. IVF is $30,000. It's like $26,500 for the actual actual IVF itself, and then about like $4,000, $5,000 for medication. Never in my life did I think that I was going to struggle this much. I could go to, I think it's like CNY Fertility you can get it a lot cheaper. Now, here's the reason why I'm choosing not to go there and get it the cheaper way. The clinic that I'm with now, I qualify for something that's called the shared risk program. What it is that I pay all of the money up front, and if they have to do another egg retrieval, then they can do that. It's included in the $26,000 that I would pay. And if I have to do, like, say that I do the transfer and it doesn't work, I can do unlimited transfers. It gives me a peace of mind, and it gives me, like, I can relax. You know, I don't have to go into this thinking like I'm spending this much money and I have, you know, it may not work and then I'm out that money. You know, I can try as many times as I want to. And if it works the first time, then yeah, I wasted some money. But in the end, I don't think that it's being wasteful. I'm getting a baby, and that, to me, I will spend millions if I have to. Not that I have millions. I barely have the $30,000, which we'll get into later. But you know what I mean. I will do whatever it takes, and I feel that I have proven that I will do whatever it takes to become a mom. So also, if I don't, like, if it doesn't result in a live birth and I decide, okay, this is too much, I'm not going to try again, I then get that $26,000 back. So this is the best option for me, and that's what I'm doing. I have busted my ass off, and I've saved most of the money within a year of finding out that I was going to need IVF, which obviously has not been easy because everything is going up. Everything is so expensive. Everything costs so much, and it's not been easy at all. And now I'm down to saving the last $10,000. What I'm hoping and praying to do is to start IVF in the summer when I can take some time off of work. I have tried, like, to me, I would love it if YouTube and TikTok could be a side hustle for me. But unfortunately, right now it's not. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, just because I've just started. I barely get any views. That's fine. Eventually I might get there. I don't know. But, and also, I forgot one, Amazon storefront. I do have that as well. And I'll put the link in the description if you would like. Amazon, to me, that's your best bet because you're buying something for yourself, but you're also supporting me in my very stressful, crazy journey of this. I have applied for grants, but unfortunately they do cater towards couples, and not even just like same-sex couples. They can be two women too, which I think is great, but they kind of just leave out the single women for whatever reason. If you look on most of the websites, it's all like the recipients are two people, which sucks because I'm one income. I mean, they deserve it 100%, but I do too, and that's something that I wish that they could see. There are some grant foundations that only give to married people. You have to show proof of marriage when you're applicating, when you turn in your application, which is just insane. It's 2026. Can we please stop this? Like, let's be inclusive of everyone. And that is my journey so far. And I know that some people have had it way worse than I have, but it doesn't mean that my journey has been easy by any means. It doesn't mean that I can't, like, I'm not allowed to get upset about it every once in a while. This is the story that I was supposed to live, and I know in my heart that it's not over. and I will fight, and I will do whatever it takes. Because even though I'm not a mom yet, I can't I can't even describe the amount of love that I have for them already, and they're not even an embryo yet. I still have so far to go, but I know that in the end it's going to be worth it, and I'll be able to look at my child and tell them that I did everything possible. And if it doesn't work, I know in my heart that I've done everything possible. I don't want to just give up now. And I know, I honestly feel that one day I will be able to look at my child and to tell them the story of how, I'm sorry, tell them the story of how we became a family. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. It'll help me out a lot. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.